It's nice to meet. So we can introduce ourselves first, because I think quite a few people are new, right? So at least 3, 4 to each other. So I'll start. So I'm Suresh Natarajan. I've been part of this Red Mountain Ashram we have started, and we have. So the vision of Red Mountain Ashram is to put it simply, abide and disseminate the teachings of self-inquiry and stillness. So we all, at least most of us, I'm sure, are aware of this famous mountain Arunachala in South India, which literally translates to Red Mountain. Right? So Aruna means red, which is the color of dawn, and Achala means mountain. So Red Mountain is the name of the mountain Arunachala. So, and coincidentally, we have a Red Mountain in Washington State. So I don't know if you can take your father there, but it's, I've never been there myself, but there is a Red Mountain in Washington State. So I thought it's a nice coincidence. So we just took that name, Red Mountain Ashram, which signifies both Arunachala and the state of Washington. And the word itself actually means stillness, right? Achala literally means, though it's translated as mountain, the literal Sanskrit means that which doesn't move, achala. So that's the beauty of Sanskrit, by the way. Every word has within it what it represents. So achala means that which doesn't move. And so that is the name of the place, Arunachala. So we saw Red Mountain. And the whole purpose is to engage with the teachings of self-inquiry, which is the essence of truly celebrating and honoring the Guru. So we don't want to make it into just simply creating another identity, but go to the essence of what is self-inquiry, which is the essence of the teachings of Ramana Maharishi and many great sages, which shows us the way to recognize our true essence as peace. So that's the Red Mountain Ashram, and so that's enough. Yeah. So we'll just have a sharing of the basic pointer of self-inquiry and have a discussion around it. So again, welcome to Satsang. So nice to gather. As Abhijit is saying, in-person Satsang has its own energy, right? When we meet together, it's still, online is good, but when we meet in person, there is more interaction. There is just that immediacy, right? Like I was thinking of the word immediate means without mediation, right? So when we have a media, like the phone or like any device, it's still mediated. And when we are in person, it's immediate. But actually that is a good way to look into the whole teaching also, right? Because when we look at it, we normally look for a medium to access the teaching, right? And that medium becomes some kind of a crutch. We want to either hold on to a book or a form or anything of that nature. But the real teaching is also immediate, in that it is direct recognition within us. Everything can point to it. So we have great pointers of great sages. So for example, as we mentioned, Ramana Maharishi's pointers are very powerful in recognizing our true nature. Gita points to the same truth very powerfully. But ultimately, we have to find it in the immediate way, that is without any mediation, right, directly. And that is the essence of self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is to recognize that the true scripture is in silence, which is in our own heart. Everything else is only a pointer to that. We can have the most beautiful words, but the words are still not the real thing, right? The old metaphor of the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon, right? It's just a finger. If you get caught in the finger, then we are not looking at the moon. You can use the finger to look at the moon, but you have to at some point let go of the finger, right? Similarly, the words are only a pointer to that which cannot be described. That's why it's called as it's ineffable, it's undescribable. And so we only can approximate with words, and every word is fraught with some kind of confusion possibly. So we have to be very careful in handling words and holding it loosely. That's why, as the famous Dakshinamurti Stotram says, it says, Mauna Vyakhya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam. It says the true Vyakhya, description, is only through Mauna, only through silence. And silence doesn't mean stopping of the talking, right? Like it's not the absence of words is not silence. It's silence when the traffic stops. The inner traffic is quiet and there is stillness within, then there is silence. And to come upon that silence is the essence of self-inquiry, which is also the essence of true surrender, true devotion. So when we look at normally the way of self-inquiry, first of all, there is a tendency to look at it as different from bhakti. But in reality, it is just looking at the same thing from different angles. It's like two sides of a coin. So whichever way we look at it, we are looking at the same coin. So when we recognize our true nature, we recognize that we, as we have taken ourselves to be, is completely false. And what remains is that which is the non-dual truth. So that non-dual truth, which is the essence, which is called Brahman or Atman or whatever term we use, is only the abiding reality that ever present but is hidden because of our identification with the ego. So the whole process of both self-inquiry and surrender is to not find anything new, but to be free of this false ego. So the classic example that's given is the sun that is covered by clouds. When the clouds are there, it's not that the sun is not there, it's still there, it's just not seen. But the reason that metaphor works so nicely is because the very clouds that hide the sun are actually seen by the light of the sun. Similarly, the very thoughts which are our egoic identifications, which hide our true nature, are actually illuminated by that very nature itself. It is awareness that is illuminating thoughts as well. But because we are identified with thoughts as me, that hides the very source from which it comes. So that's why this whole inquiry is a direct recognition by being free of this false me, right? So we are not therefore looking at it as any practice that one has to do to acquire something later. Sometimes we think it's a practice, but it's not a. So anytime we use the word practice also, practice tends to bring in time. So for example, if I want to learn a language or learn an instrument, all of that needs time and practice. Here it is not in that sense. Here it is only in the sense of being present each moment and being aware each moment. And when we are aware each moment, then in that awareness there is the freedom from the false self. And so it is not something that we are journeying in time to get as an object or as a goal, but it is always present now, and to recognize it now directly is the purpose of satsang. In fact, when we say satsang, the word literally, as we know, some of us I'm sure know this, that the word sat means actually truth. So that's why the truth is also called Sat Chit Ananda, right? So Sat is truth. So Satsang means associating with truth. Anytime we are free of the grip of the ego, we are in Satsang. So when we gather together like this, and when we share, or when we discuss, or when we listen to a chant, or when we sit in silence, all of that is meant to only look and be free of the false ego. So that is the whole purpose of self-inquiry, right? So when we, all the practices we said, for example, whether it is vipassana, watching the breath, chanting a mantra, all of that are at the level of the mind, right? Because we can make the mind one-pointed by looking at the breath, or looking at a mantra, or looking at this. But the very fundamental question is, what is the mind? And what is our true nature? Is it associated with the mind? Right? So when we ask the question, which is the most famous question posed by Ramana Maharishi, who am I? There is a tendency to associate with various activities of the body, mind as I. Right? So we can say the body, we associate with the body as I, that's very commonly seen. But we can easily see also the fallacy of it, because the body is constantly changing. It is not the same, even literally every moment it's changing. So we don't see the change, but we see it even in a 1 year, we see the difference in a photograph, right? In 10 years we see, so it's changing every moment. Mind is constantly changing, thoughts are constantly changing. So all of this is in the nature of flux, right? But we hold on to it. Right? We hold on to it, and then we want to realize something which is beyond the mind, using the mind. Right? This is, so when we engage in any meditation practice, whether it be whatever it might be, right? All of that is basically giving some practice for this mind to observe, to watch, to repeat, or to do whatever. But we don't ask the fundamental question of, is that me? Is that truly me? Right? That is the essential question. And when we come to this question, we recognize that everything that I am gathering through knowledge, through memory, through experience, through practice, is all in the nature of coming and going. Right? Every experience comes and goes. Everything comes and goes. And so, but we tend to hold on to that sense of me, identifying ourselves with some experience that we have, or some memory we have, some relationship we have. So the me, as we take ourselves, is then caught up in many of these things, right? We may say, I'm attached to, let's say, my family. So the me is caught in the family attachment, or it's attached to career, or attached to job, or attached to house. And then when it comes to the spiritual realm, again what happens is we tend to acquire knowledge, right? And then we get attached to that knowledge. We say, okay, I know this, and therefore I am a seeker, and I am a follower of Advaita. Even that is an identification that one might have, right? So any kind of sense of identity that one creates for the me is still limited, because it's all acquired through memory, through knowledge, through experience. It's not there all the time. Even in our own day, we go through the day with different apparent identities. So there is no identity that is ever fixed. But we think at any given time that is me. So if something happens that is triggering that me, that sense of me, then we think I am being praised or I am being insulted, and then therefore we are triggered by the emotional response that comes out of it. All of this is because we are always caught in this false identity of me, which is caught in various phenomena, transient phenomena, right? But all of these transient phenomena are always of the nature of, first of all, coming and going, and also they always result in various kinds of frustrations that we experience, right? So every time anything comes and goes, if we hold on to it tightly, we can see this with family members or with one's own physical appearance or with wealth or whatever. The moment it goes, there is suffering, right? Because we are holding on to it tightly. And then when something happens which is very favorable, we get excited. So there is always this duality of high and low, up and down, right? This constant duality that is tossing us up and down. So this is the state of the one identified with the me, which is what, unfortunately, practically everyone is. So the simple but direct pointer is to find out whether you are that identity that is constantly being tossed around by the ups and downs of life, or is there something beyond that is ever unaffected by the ups and downs of life. But to come upon that, we cannot come upon that through theory, through knowledge, through gathering more and more. It is by being free of this false identity. Because as we already said, if the sun is covered by clouds, the cloud being removed is all that's needed. The sun will reveal itself. So similarly here too, we don't have to make a positive effort to realize something, because that positive effort to realize something is again based on a goal projected by the mind. If the mind says this is truth and this is the nature of truth and this is the experience of truth, then I'm seeking an experience, I'm seeking a particular state. All of this is in the activity of mind. But when I recognize that everything, the known can never be the truth, right? The truth is always never in the realm of the known. It is because that which can be known is always finite. So I can know any book, I can know any theory, I can know any concept, but they are all limited because the known is always of the nature of being finite and limited. The infinite is unknown by definition, and the truth is infinite, which is unknown. So unknown can never be brought into the realm of the me, which is seeking to realize it. So the me, the conundrum or the paradox of this is that the one who seeks has to vanish for the truth to reveal itself. It is not that the seeker finds, it is the seeker has to be seen as false. That is the whole paradox. In every other realm of activity, if a seeker seeks something, he finds something through effort, where there is a duality between the seeker and the sought. If there is a difference between the seeker and the sought, then the seeker can make effort to attain the sought, whatever it might be, a good job, a good career, a good house, whatever. You can seek those things and attain it. But here the seeker is the sought, and the seeker and the sought are both coming from the same source. So as long as I am taking myself to be a seeker and I am seeking something outside me, it remains elusive. So the whole pointer is to recognize that the seeker and the sought are both coming from the same source. And if the seeker is not held as my identity, if I see the falsity of the seeker, then what remains is the ground of being. So that recognition is the essence of self-inquiry. Now, where does it become the biggest problem for us? The biggest problem for us is the sense of me is very strong in all relationships, right? Whenever we are relating to anyone, whether it be our house or work or wherever it is, that's when we clearly see, because many times what can happen is we can be sitting in silence and in solitude, and we may think that I am in peace, I am in complete stillness. But what happens is many times that there are so many unconscious or subconscious tendencies which come out in various situations and relationships. So when we are engaging with people, for example, relationship acts as a mirror. We can actually see the ways in which we are caught in the me. So without that, we can kind of understand something theoretically and delude ourselves into thinking that I am Atman, I am Brahman, and all these statements one can make. But in reality, the me is not any of that. The me is actually caught in all these things. So the brutal honesty to look into and be free of the me is self-inquiry. So whenever I'm relating to someone, and it can be at any level, as I've said before too, it can be something as simple as watching the news, and if I'm triggered by the news, then there is a me that is getting triggered because I have an identification with a particular ideology or a particular way of thinking. It can be triggered by an event in the road. It can be triggered by a family dispute. It can be triggered. So the beauty of this is that every moment in life offers us the mirror to see ourselves. And when we are very alert and aware, then self-inquiry is happening all the time. We are constantly being alert and looking at where is the me rising. If there is any emotional trigger, that's the me rising. If there is any excitement, any depression, anything that goes high, low, all of this is the me rising. So whenever I see any of this happening throughout the day, if I am remaining alert, then in that very alertness, the me doesn't have the hold. Normally what happens is, we all live unconsciously. I'm going about and then some incident happens, I'm triggered, I yell at it, or I'm unhappy with it, or I'm depressed, or I am, people do various things to escape this. Sometimes people go and eat because of that. Sometimes people go and watch a movie to escape something. So there are so many escape mechanisms we have whenever we have various things that happen that are either triggering us or making us unhappy or sad or excited and all of that. But if I'm very alert throughout the day, then I don't escape from myself. That's the first important thing, is I'm just watching myself. I'm seeing I'm clear, I'm seeing that I'm triggered here. And that who is triggered now. So if you don't have to verbalize that question even. If you look at it, then that is the false me that is caught in an identity. That can be a nationalistic identity, that can be a political identity, that can be a religious identity, right? All of these identities are coming in the way of triggering me, and I can see that I'm caught in all of these things. And when I'm seeing this clearly, then that very awareness frees us out of it. That is the beauty of it. When I'm aware, then I'm not anymore caught in it. If I'm not aware, I'm caught in it. So this is why it's called, sometimes it's beautiful expression of Krishnamurti, which is choiceless awareness, right? If you are just choicelessly aware, then that very choiceless awareness frees you from that identification, because you are not anymore the me that is identified with a particular emotion or whatever, but you are the awareness in which that emotion is rising. And therefore, when you are aware of this emotion rising, the emotion doesn't have the hold. There is just the seeing clearly of that, and in that very clarity of seeing, it drops. And that is meditation every moment. When we are in self-inquiry, which is same as being self-aware, then we are constantly studying ourselves. The book that we have to study, the most important book we have to study is our own self. Everything else is, as we said in the very beginning, only a pointer to this book. And if we study this book directly, then we don't need any other book even. And that book that we have is constantly telling us about ourselves. And when we study it and therefore we are free of it, then in that very awareness, what happens is there is a peace that comes. Because then I am not anymore all these identities that are triggered, but I am the awareness in which all of this are happening. And by we recognize that none of these make any sense, right? I mean, just the awareness of it. That's why awareness of inattention brings attention. See, normally when we are not, what we do is we are not in attention because we are inwardly caught in this me. So, for example, if I'm talking to someone, let's say I'm listening to someone, if I'm caught in the sense of me, which is judging this person or which is evaluating this person or all of that, then part of my attention is to the content of the conversation, part of the attention is what I'm thinking about him. So this is why many times we see in the extreme cases people don't even listen, they are just waiting to talk. Because all you want to do is to express yourself. You're not actually listening to the other person. And we see this very clearly in, for example, heated debates and so on. There is no listening happening because the me is so strong that I'm identified with the me and my attention is completely divided. I'm only partially listening to what is being spoken and I'm mainly interested in what I'm thinking about this person or about this content. But when I am fully attentive, then that division goes away. So the way that attention comes about is by being aware of this me, right? I don't have to tell myself that I have to now listen. It's not the way to do it. It's just simply if I'm aware. See, what we do is through life when we go through, we go about it unaware by being constantly judging and evaluating and criticizing. All this voice in the head is running all the time, right? But I'm not aware of any of this. I'm just going about life. So when I first come into this, the first thing that comes up is be aware of it, that's all. The moment you are aware of all of this going on in your head, then that very awareness does something very interesting. What happens is then you are not caught in that voice in the head because you are aware of the voice in the head. And by that very awareness, the voice in the head subsides. Then you are fully listening. You don't have to tell yourself, I have to listen and any of that. There is listening that happens when there is an awareness of the listener. When the me that is judging, evaluating, all of that is doing, it is being watched. In that very watching, the sense of me dissolves and what remains is pure listening. So that is the very essence of self-inquiry, is that it is just being moment to moment aware of what is going on within us, right? When we are aware of what's going on within us, then that very awareness brings forth a peace which is not something I can go and seek, right? So then the beauty of this is it can happen anytime, any place. I'm sitting in the bus or I'm sitting in the car, I can still be present fully, and I can, if as you were saying the other day, there is bad traffic, you're stuck in traffic and there's an irritation coming out of the bad traffic, then you look into who is getting irritated, right? Then you recognize that the irritation is coming because of this sense of me that is identified with a particular goal right now. I want to get here and I'm frustrated and all of that. But there's an awareness of this. By just asking the question who is getting irritated, I'm aware of the irritation. And then I'm not anymore the one who is getting irritated, but I'm the awareness in which it happens. So in this way, if we can live life with awareness, then that brings about a different quality to our life. And the other aspect to it, which is the flip side of it, which is equally important, is this awareness and attention also goes hand in hand with unconditional love. Because when I am not aware and I'm caught in the me, then there is no love. Because I'm always interested in me and it's always self-centered, and then I'm only interested in even others for the sake of the me. So when I say I love my children or I love my partner, and if I look at it carefully, what I will find out is that I am actually attached and I am interested in them because they are satisfying certain desires I have, or my image is being boosted by them. There is an attachment there. All of this is causing us to say, so many times we think we love someone, but in reality what we are is we are attached to that person and attached to that company or that emotion we get out of that, or whatever pleasure we get out of that. And that is why we are again caught in the me, because when I'm talking to someone, if I am thinking that I'm loving them, but I have an image of them and I have an image of myself, and they do something that is contrary to that image, then I'm immediately upset by it. I'm thinking, oh, this is not how they should behave, right? Because I'm not unconditionally accepting them, I'm conditionally attached to them. That is what we always do. We have an image of a person, even our own spouse or even parents, children, closest relations, co-workers, everyone, we create an image, and we have a self-image, of course, which is the me. And if the self-image is being satisfied, it's being gratified, then we are very happy with the relationship. And when the self-image is being offended or affected, then we immediately blame the other person, then there is conflict and all of that. But on the other hand, if we recognize that everyone is first of all caught in the same problem, right? So the beauty of this is the me that is making us getting caught in all of this is the same me that's operating in every human, unfortunately. So if you look at everyone, that nobody is truly the author of their actions. Actions are happening through this energy that is all pervading, part of which is this sense of me, which is what we call as sometimes Maya, right? This net of Maya, this net of Maya has many layers, but one of the key things is that it creates the sense of me and mine, right? So when the sense of me and mine comes, then that causes people to get into all the things we talked about, right? Judgment and anger and greed and comparison and all of that. So everyone is caught in the same thing, unfortunately, right? So when we look at someone, let's say someone is doing a very mean thing, if I look at them as a separate me there and I am a separate me here, then I say, how dare they do such a thing, and I am offended by them and I am upset by them and all of that. But if I recognize that they are just doing this out of ignorance, right? It is the same ignorance that's operating here, that's operating there too. And when I recognize that, then there is compassion, right? And in that compassion, there is true listening. Then I am not judging the other person. I only see them as, again, acting out of ignorance, which is causing them to function in ways which are self-centered. And the same activity happens here also. So I am no different from anyone else. The ways in which the me manifests may be different. One may be a more angry person, one may be a more depressed person, one may be a more excited person, one may be a very greedy person, right? But it's all a symptom of the self-centered me. So when I see this, then I recognize that everyone is caught in the same trap, right? That's why Buddha very beautifully said, he said, everyone suffers with an illusory self. Therefore, the only right response is compassion. Right? Everyone is suffering from the same illusory self. The me is the same, it just takes on different flavors. So when I recognize this, then there is unconditional love for all, for the suffering that everyone is having, which is the same suffering I have been going through because of the false identification. And when I recognize all of this, then there is attention, right? Then I'm not trying to put myself over others. But I recognize that everyone is in the same, swimming in the same waters, and we are all caught in the same stream of consciousness, which is polluted by this sense of me. Every human being, if you travel, you notice this, right? You go to India, you go to Far East, you go to Middle East, West here, everywhere, people have the same kinds of attachments, comparison, identity politics, anger, at the family level, at the societal level, at the national level, religious level, everywhere it's the same thing, it just takes different colors, right? So everyone wants to say they are, feel belong to a community and think theirs is better than others, play the us versus them game, all of this. So when I recognize all of this, then I see that the stream of human consciousness is the same everywhere. And that begins here. So when I am free of this only, I can actually connect to another person. So it's a twofold thing. So I am aware of my identification with the false self. Every time the me rises here, I'm attentive to it, I'm aware of it. Whatever comes up, I'm very alert and aware. If there is judgment, comparison, any of that comes up, I'm aware, and in that awareness it dissolves. And I listen to the other person, and if the other person is engaged in the same kinds of activities, I look at them then with eyes of compassion, right? I don't have any judgment or any trigger there. I just look at them with love. So undivided attention and unconditional love. These are the two things that are essential for us to come upon our true nature, which is peace itself. Otherwise, we can know a lot of things, but finally what matters is how do I live moment to moment. That is where the rubber meets the road, as we say, right? So how do I live moment to moment? Each moment, am I living in true love, which is true attention, right? When I'm looking at you, am I actually seeing you as you are and ready to listen to you and just respond out of that listening? Or am I caught in my own ideas and my own judgments and trying to slot you in a particular bucket and like you, dislike you, do all of these games? So if I don't do any of that, only then the mind is clear, right? And this is the most important thing, because without a clear mind, we cannot come upon that which is eternal, that which is infinite, that which is what we call as God. So this clarity at the psychological level is the most paramount, right? And this, when that comes, then we see everything as divine. So that's why even in Arunachala Pancharatnam, this very beautiful verse, he says, the expression uses amala mati dhanna, right? So he says, ahamiti kuta ayati iti anvishyantah pravishtaya ati amaladhya. So amaladhi means intellect. Amala means without any corruption, right? So corruption in the mind is coming through the sense of me. That is the only source of corruption. So that's why I always say, whether it is a fight between two family members or whether it's a fight between two countries, the only root of it is the me. If I'm identified with my religion and someone is identified with their religion, the two religions fight. Two nationalities fight, two people fight. It's all because of the same sense of me. So to be free of this sense of me by being aware of it and by being very alert moment to moment is the first and the last step, in fact. Because when we do that, then what happens is there is clarity which reveals the truth on its own. It is not that we have to go seek the truth. The truth is already here, as we said. It is covered by this. It's like another metaphor many times used is like a mirror covered with dirt, right? The mirror is already there. We don't have to go find a mirror. We just have to clean the dirt off. So the dirt is the mala. And when we make when it is amala, when it is free of dirt, then the mirror shines through and we see our true nature. And our true nature is nothing but peace itself, right? We can be in that true equanimity. See, as Gita says, Sukha dukkham same krutva labha labho jaya jaya, right? So you see happiness and sadness the same, profit and gain the same, victory and loss the same. That comes only when the identification with the me goes away. So the me cannot tell itself that, oh, I'm going to now look at everything in the same way, because that's another imposition of thought which will never sustain itself. But when the false me goes away, then the very stillness of being sees everything the same way, whether it's sukham, dukkham, labham, alabham, all of that. And that state is called a yogi in real sense, right? Samatvam yoga uchyate. So the true yoga is not about getting some samadhi, getting some state, getting some particular thing that comes and goes, but to remain in equanimity. So Krishna says that's why samatvam yoga uchyate. To remain in equanimity is yoga. And to remain in equanimity is to come upon this stillness. And that comes about when there is this total alert presence which results in complete attention and a flowering of love. So that's the simple but beautiful essence of this pointer. And when we live that, then we are free that very moment, right? So Bhagavatam says tat kshanat, that very moment we are free. We don't have to, it is not something that I have to do and get something later. The moment I am free of the me, I am free. But then the next moment the me can come again and take over. So one has to be alert. So that's why being free and being alert go together. One has to be very alert, and in that alertness there is freedom and there is clarity and there is peace. See, the beauty of this is every moment we can actually be free of the past completely when we are fully present and alert. Right? See, normally we are always carrying the past as me, right? The knowledge I have, the ideas I have, the whatever I have, right? So there is the need for knowledge at the transactional level. Right? We need to know the language to speak or operate the phone or all of that, right? But we don't need to carry any psychological knowledge, right? We always tend to carry, oh, I am like this, I am like that. That self-image we create is what always comes in the way of any relationship, any activity, right? So to be free of the self-image is true meditation. Because the self-image is always false, right? It is limited. Because it's also constantly changing, right? Every relationship you will have a different self-image, and then that self-image seems important in that moment. Then you'll go to a different meeting, then there will be a different self-image that comes up, right? So the self-image is constantly fleeting, which alone tells you that that's not your true self. Right? It's just an image that you've built, but it seems so important in that moment when I'm talking to someone, right? And it can happen even in a philosophical discussion. If I know something, then I would think I would want to hold on to that and argue about it and all the rest, right? But if you hold everything lightly, then you can actually simply remain alive by dying to the past, right? So if you die to the past, you are alive now. Otherwise, you are living the past, right? You are constantly living through the past. But if you die to the past, then you are alive now. The main reason, all of these go together because one of the reasons why we don't die to the past is because of fear, right? See, we want to hold on to an image because it gives us security. And that security is something that we crave because we are always afraid of the unknown, right? So we want to say, I belong to a particular... See, this is why even even at the political level, all this identity politics and all are so powerful because everyone wants to hold on to something and say, I belong to this identity, belong to this group, belong to this whatever it is. And so you hold on to some image, and even at the family level, you hold on to an image and you say, I am like this, I am like that, right? But the beauty is, the true beauty of true meditation is when you are a completely empty slate. You don't have any image, because that emptiness is fullness, right? That is the presence of still awareness, right? When there is open awareness, then there is fullness. Otherwise, there is always something that is constantly coming in the way, right? Like a nice example that I always like to share is, see, it's like if you have a cup, right? If you pour some coffee in it and drink it, right? Now, if you don't throw the coffee out, then the next you put some other drink, it's going to be polluted, right? Then you put, so you have to, you do it, you have to always empty the cup, right? If you don't empty the cup cannot take anything new. It's always polluted by the old. But that's what we do with our mind, right? We are never emptying the mind. We are holding on to something. And so everything is more and more and more pollution, because I'm holding on to this, then I'm adding more. So the whole process of meditation in reality is just completely emptying your mind, right? And that emptying happens not through any necessarily any method or technique, but to just see it clearly, that everything that I'm doing is holding on to something which is out of fear, out of an inability to let go, which is causing this constant pollution through looking at everything from the prism of the past. Right? But when I'm completely, like when I see this clearly and I say, okay, I'm just present, right? Just there is, because that's what we are actually, right? If you strip away all your thoughts and all your everything, what is here is just presence. There's just simple presence. The presence is both empty and full, right? The cup is empty, then it's full of space, right? And that space can hold anything. But every moment you have to empty the cup, right? So if you are not registered, so the way we don't empty is we register it. Every moment we register. Like when something happens, I immediately say I like or I dislike, I make a judgment, I register it, and then the next time I meet the person, that registration comes forth, I see them through that prism, and I'm constantly evaluating, all of this, right? But if I'm completely emptying myself every moment, and that is the true essence of self-inquiry, is that who is the one who is listening now? Am I listening as pure, silent presence, or am I caught in an identity which is listening? And when I'm recognizing the identity which is listening, the very recognition, as we said, distances us from it. Right? Then I'm not in any of the identity, right? I'm not, that's why this famous Shankara's work is, right? What is that? Na jatir, na varnam, na modam, I don't know which is this? Na punyam, na papam, yeah. He says, I am Chidananda Rupam Shivoham Shivoham. He says, I'm not in any caste, I'm not in any varna. Nirvana should come, yeah. So that's the essence of it, right? So what we may do is, we may repeat Nirvana should come, but we will still be caught in the identity, right? But what he points to is important, right? Like, I am not in any varna, I am not in, because the me is the one who is caught in varna, or in ashrama, or in, nationality, or this. So when I free myself of all of this, then nirvana comes, right? The true freedom comes. Not by simply mechanically repeating nirvana should come, which is what unfortunately we may do. But if you go to the essence of it, not through theory, but through awareness, right? So you have to be aware. That's why it's something that one has to be alert and aware. Then Nirvana Shatkam becomes our reality, right? That very moment. See, the moment we bring out any concept of the truth and we hold on to that, we are still caught in that memory from the past, which can never be the actual truth, right? It can never be known. So to come upon the unknown requires dying to the known. So, and dying to the known happens only by being aware of the known. We are actually not even aware of what we are, right? Like, as he said, when I'm angry, I am the anger at the time, right? I'm identified with the anger. So, when I am aware of this movement of anger that is taking hold, so to be aware of the known is very essential, right? To be aware of all your images and likes and dislikes and how it rises, right? I mean, see, the way to look at it is also, you can look at it in one sweep, right? So you notice that everything we are carrying on is what is driving our life, right? Like my desires, my anger, my images, my fear, and all of that. And I noticed that all of this is just this entire content that is there, that I'm identified as me, right? So when I see that this whole content is what is driving my life, and this content is entirely acquired through conditioning, through memory, through past knowledge, experience, and all of that. And it is what prevents that perception of the Sat. So when I let go of that fully, right, when the seeing is the dropping of it. If you see it completely, you can drop it right there, right? That seeing is the dropping.
But it served us very well.
Which one?
The mind.
No, see, no, listen, it's very important. It's a good question, good point to bring up. See, the mind has many times, for example, that's why the terminology, as he says, is very important to recognize. See, Ramana Maharishi uses the word mind and Manonasha. Now, the same Ramana Maharishi wrote Aksharamana Malai or Ulladinarpadu, or he did cooking, so he had mind to do all that, right? So what he refers to as Manonasha is nothing but Aham Nasha, the death of the me. So there is a chronological mind and there is a psychological mind, which is same as time. There is chronological time and psychological time. The chronological mind is very essential, right? To come 3 o'clock at the library, we look at the map, you know what time it's coming. You want to write something, you want to write code, or you want to, work. All of that is the chronological mind that can function perfectly well without the psychological overlay, right? Without thinking that I am doing it, I am so good at it, I need to be given credit for it. How dare he say this? See, we think thinking is of two types, right? There is the functional thinking and there is the psychological thinking. It is very important to discern between the two. If you cannot remain in a thoughtless state as people think. That is not what Ramana was in, that is not what Shankara was in, that is not what Buddha was in, right? They were going, they wrote, like, you cannot compose Nirvana Shatkam without Sanskrit, So mind is, the word mind is, that's why to be used like carefully, right? What is being referred to is the psychological mind. And the psychological mind is seen as false. Then the chronological mind, in fact, falls in its perfect place, right? You can write code without thinking about what will See, this is the essence of Karma Yoga, right? What Krishna says is you do the work, do not think about the result, and not only that, do not think you are the doer. He says, Karta aham prakrite kriyamanani kunai karmani sarvashah ahankara mudhatma karta ahamiti manyante. Only the ignorant fool thinks I am the doer, he says. So, he doesn't say work stops. Prakriti does the work. You are nothing but Prakriti. You as in the mind, this brain, the thinking, the body, the moving, that is not going to stop. Right? That's always working. But what has to stop is the psychological mind. That's why there is a important thing to be clear. Ramana Maharishi says, be still. And Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says one can never be still. You look at it and you say both are at odds with each other. Right? What is that verse? You will know this. Which is the verse where he says the body can never be still? Get it. But the thing is, the point is, Prakriti is never still. Prakriti means moving. It's like a river, it keeps on flowing.
That same slogan comes from Upanishad also.
Yes. In fact, the funny thing is, Gita has a lot of shlokas that are coming from Kathopanishad. It's the closest Upanishad.
Because of your indriyams are outside.
Correct.
So automatically,
Correct.
you are
Correct.
bound to, your vision will be distorted by that. So you say.
Correct. So the point there is just that the Prakriti, its movement, it's always there. Inwardly, you can be still. Inwardly, you can be still. The stillness inwardly is actually going to make the outer movement flow harmoniously, right? So you can actually be completely still within and let the body function, right? That you can talk and you can act and you can write code. And people even, it's not something very mystical. People come into this, but they don't, because it's something that comes and goes, they don't really, like many sportsmen will come up on this. If you read like they'll say I'm in the zone where I'm just playing, but nobody was there, right? Like, many runners get this, right? Many people, so it's not a very mystical thing, but it's just that because it comes and goes like this, people don't recognize it. But when you're in the zone, you know that there is nobody there, but things are happening so perfectly. You are writing, it can happen in coding, you can be writing code and there is just the writing of the code, there is nobody there. Right? There's nobody says I'm writing. Later, thought will come and say, oh, I wrote this great piece of code and I need to be given credit for it and this and that, right? And that is the corrupting factor. So, mind that works psychologically to do this sense of me, claiming credit and insult and this and that, comparing, oh, is he better than me? Is he worse than me? This, that. That is the mind that has actually not served us well. No, but is there such a thing called mind, first of all?
Which one? The thought generation?
So what do you mean by mind? Let's just say this. So there is the brain, right?
Brain is physical.
Physical. Okay. What do you mean by the mind?
Mind is manasu, or
No, like if you put it in simple English.
Okay.
Is there anything? So, for example, Ramana Maharishi says it very simply. He says, mind is nothing but collection of thoughts.
Collection of thoughts.
That's it, right?
No,
In other words,
No.
But even
is there anything?
conversation, you have your
No.
You are storing somewhere that is there in your mind. Okay.
See,
Past things.
Memory.
That is also thought.
See, the question is this, right?
No, that is okay.
Is there an entity called mind? Can you, many places he will say, can you show me where the mind is? You were going to say something, sir.
Internet.
No.
Huh?
He said that memory. He said manam means So he says there are 4 items. See, normally mind they say manam, buddhi, chittam, ahankara. Whenever you are doubtful, now it's called manam. If you are certain, that is buddhi. Ahankara means so that we are talking. So me and mind, that is ahankara. So manam, chittam is memory. All are same only. So there is no 4 different things. Just like a fire heat is separate, color is separate, both are same only.
I mean, they are all brain cells, but the functions are different.
Yeah,
And
that's fair.
mind-
No, that is fair. You're right. Functions are different. Memory's function is different. Buddhi's function is different. Meaning,
All are same, one only.
Only item-
It's like different
That's what I'm
organs of
saying,
the
right?
body.
yeah. So see, the point. The thing is, memory is not a problem, right? In fact, you need memory to function in this world. Obviously,
Yeah.
buddhi. You need buddhi to function, right? Chittam, buddhi, all of that you need. The only thing you don't need at all is ahankara, which is the sense of me, which is coming forth in every human being through conditioning and through whatever the genetic programming, whatever it is. And so that is the corrupting factor, that's all.
But it served the purpose too.
Which way?
When we are children, growing up, maybe, when there is a tiger is coming, and then we wanted to protect, yes, this is I'm not here, this is not
No,
me,
but
and-
listen, no. Let's look at this carefully. It's a very good question to look into. Let's say you are standing in the road. It's a very practical thing that you will notice. Let's say a car is coming at you. Will you step out of the way or not? Instantly you will step out,
Yeah.
right? Now, in that moment, is there a me operating?
I think so.
No.
As ahankara.
No, think about it carefully. Is there even, take two different situations. Someone insults you and you are getting angry over it and you are triggered by it and you are upset over it. There is suffering happening, there is whatever, right? There is a me operating there clearly, you can see that. Now take a different example where a car is coming at you in the road and you instantly, your body has the intelligence to step out of the way. Is there a me operating there? This me is clear, right? The self-image, as I said. You don't need a self-image. In fact, the body has its own intelligence to protect itself. If a tiger comes, the body knows what to do. You will step out of the way, you will run, you will climb the tree, whatever you need to do.
I don't know if the body has any of that.
Is
I mean, what we are saying is same mind only.
Correct.
That is what it does.
That's it.
I mean, without that, there is nothing.
That's all. See, all we are saying is, if it makes you, we don't need to get caught in words, right? As we said, words are just a pointer. It is the self-image building that we are talking about.
The rest
Maybe your wisdom is like what a buddhi is the one what is
You look at any point in history, right? It doesn't matter what time it is. It's not about now, it's 1,000 years back, whenever it is, right? There has been always the various types of conflicts that humans have experienced, which are a result of mind, which are a result of this psychological thinking, right? Now, you are perhaps right in saying, and there is a certain, if you look at it purely from an evolutionary perspective, certainly animals also have a sense of identity, which is clearly seen in behavior of animals. So, for example, you will notice that chimpanzees form tribes, right? There is if you are in a particular chimpanzee tribe and a different chimpanzee of a different tribe comes, they attack them. There is no reason to attack another chimpanzee because chimpanzee cannot eat a chimpanzee. But still they do it because of the us versus them mentality, right? They form a tribe. Lions do it, many animals. So it's a very animalistic instinct, this sense of, this body identification, and because of that, getting, it's a very primal, survival based, and that kind of a instinct that is there, right? Whether it has served us well or not, it's beside the point. What is the important point is that humans throughout history, recorded history at least, have suffered because of this, right? So if you want to live at the level of a chimpanzee or a lion or all these animals which do this, right? Clearly, we can continue to be in this tribal mentality and all of this, right? But clearly, it's not just now. The Buddha came 2,500 years ago, and he revealed the same truth, right? And before that, the Upanishadic sages came who revealed the same truth, right? So, and unfortunately, even then, there were people who were fighting wars and fighting, there were domestic disputes, national disputes, all of this going on, right? So, the real question for us is, as humans, are we wanting to be caged by the primal instincts, or do we transcend it? And that transcending is what is coming upon the divine, right? So that's why we have this, that is the only extent to which human birth is special, right? Like all the scriptures say that Manushyatvam, Mumukshutvam, Sadhu Sangatvam, it says in Vivekachudamani, right? So Manushyatvam is the human birth. The human birth is special because you are able to look into these things, right? You are able to be aware of your thinking, first of all. And you are able to then question your thinking. You are able to not be caught in unconscious patterns of thinking. And then that results in mumukshutvam, which is a desire to be free of this trap. Otherwise, you are in an animalistic program, right? Like everyone, unfortunately, society, so many people are like that even today, right? You just get identified with your team and you just hate the other team, whatever team sport you are playing. The team sport can be, your team can be a religion, your team can be a politics, nationality, or it can be your own individual ego. Then you are hating the other person. This team sport goes on all the time. And it's no different from a chimpanzee attacking another chimpanzee. Right? That's the level at which, unfortunately, many of us are functioning, right? So the whole process of this is to recognize that we are capable of transcending it. The Buddha transcended it. Shankara showed it. Ramana has showed it. So what it shows is that we as humans, you and I, can transcend it too. And it's not a matter of time, because 2,500 years back also someone transcended, right? And now also, so we as humans, are we to flower into what we can be as the perfection of this human expression, or are we caught in this us versus them, me, kind of thing, right? So that's the only question in front of us, right? So it doesn't, because at least in all of recorded history, it has not served us well. It may have had some evolutionary reason. That's not something we need to worry about. Right? So the real essence is what self-inquiry is, right? Which is to recognize that there is no separate entity as a me, and there is only the expression of the divine here, right? So what expresses itself is all that is here, and it is then an expression of true love and compassion, but nobody having love and compassion. See, if I tell myself that I have to love others, there is still, that is duality, right? That is why that is not the love we are talking about at all. It is the recognition that there is just one non-divided movement that is the whole universe, in which everything happens. So a simple example for you to understand is, you look at your own body, right? It's one unit. Now, your finger takes care of your eyes. When something comes, it protects your eyes from hitting your eyes. You feed the stomach nourishes the body, right? Every part of the body is cooperating with all other parts. Now, that is not out of any intention of loving. The stomach doesn't say, I love the arms, I'm going to now strengthen the arm. It's just one movement, right? Because there is no separation there. So that's the whole point of true love, is when there is no sense of separation. And this is what is actually revealed in Gita in a very beautiful way by Krishna as Vishwarupa. Right? When he shows the whole universe is me, that is only a visual representation that the entire universe is just the body of the divine. Like if you look at it that way, right? Just as our body is one unit, if you recognize that the whole universe is one body of the divine, then in that everything is a part of it, right? So you are a part of that body, I am a part of that body, everyone here is a part of this universal body. Then the relationship is what now?
You don't hate yourself.
That's it. That's all. And if you call that love, you call it love. If you don't call it love, you don't call it love. Like, somebody asked Ramana Maharishi very beautifully, it became like, he said, they asked him, how should we treat others? This was the question asked to him. Normally, saintly people will say, you should love others, you should be compassionate towards blah, blah, whatever, it's all fine. But he simply said, there are no others. Right? That is the highest realization. When you recognize that there are no others, then what comes out of you is what? Right? That is what we call as love. Not the love that comes from a me that says, I will love you, right? That's attachment or whatever it is.
Mind.
See, mana is actually defined, even Vedanta, they define all this. Mana is, sankalpa, vikalpa is mana. This is like that which makes determinations, like will is mana. Then nishchayatmika buddhi, they say, that which makes a decision is buddhi. Chitta is memory, and ahankara is the sense of me. So it's all, that's why one movement finally. It's just like he said, it's just one thing. It just has different functions. Yes. See, the thing is, you can function. See, here is the thing, right? There is always something to be done as long as there is life energy. Right? You're doing masters, you got to do your courses, you got to do whatever you need to do, right? You're working, you got whatever you need to do, right? So that's why that verse I was referring to, like right. Yes. This is in second chapter. It's in the third chapter, so it must be second chapter, yeah. So the point is, work never stops, right? Like you got to do something with the body, right? Huh?
Yeah, it says nobody can remain passive even for a moment.
Yes.
Everyone is helplessly drawn into action by inborn natural impulses.
Which verse? Third chapter, right?
Third, 3.5.
3.5, right. So that is the truth, right? You cannot stop at the manifest level. Even, seeing is action, right? Like you are seeing me, let's say. There is so much, if you really look at it from even a computing standpoint, there is so much processing happening in your brain to see an image, right? That's why robotic vision is such a hard problem to solve, right? Because there is so much, activity happening just when you are sitting doing nothing, right? So there is always, every sense is functioning, right? Brain is functioning, breathing is happening, your blood is circulating, like it's just the body is, that's why it's such a miraculous expression of divine intelligence, right? It does so many things which you can never conceivably think about, right? So the problem is not the body, right? Like many times the mistake comes in spiritual, like even whether it's Vedanta or Buddhism, there is a tendency to like somehow denigrate the body, right? But that's actually the very opposite of what the real essence is, because the body is a divine expression which is a tremendous intelligence in operation, right? You are like, if you take something as simple as how digestion happens, the very digestion process is so complex, right? The amount of, I was reading about this, the amount of processing that happens in the mitochondria of one cell is just mind-boggling, right? So that is the level of intelligence the body has. So that is why in Gita, Krishna says that, like there is a beautiful verse where he says, I am the fire that digests your food. Bhutva praninam dekam ashrita. So that's just an example. He didn't want to go through every body part, but literally every single function of the body is happening by the divine intelligence. The problem is only that the me that says, I am doing all this, right? Identification, that is what causes dukkha. When you say, I am attached to the body, right? The body gracefully ages, it does what it does, it goes, it recirculates, right? Everything is true like that. So you can actually function in that realm of expression, functional expression, without a psychological baggage, right? That is the whole point of freedom. So if you are still within, then all of these go away. There is no attachment to the body, no attachment to perception. It's not like you are saying, I am perceiving. And ultimately, as you said, well, the very consciousness of me being aware of that is also gone, right? The sense identification that is separating me from experiencing and thinking that I am having these experiences, that itself is the fundamental, that is the root I thought, right? Which is making me identify with the body and say that I am having these experiences. I am aware of these perceptions, I am aware of these actions and all of that. That very sense of I thought is also rising, only coming and going, right? And so when you are not having any of that, then there is only the activities of the body and mind. The perceptions happen, the digestion happen, the whatever you are doing, and they can happen perfectly without the sense of me, which is constantly overlaying on top of it and saying, I have done it, you know, this, that, right? So then the body is hungry, eat food. You don't eat for satisfying your desire then. You just eat what is, naturally you eat what is healthy and satisfy your hunger, but not your desire. You work without any unnecessary threads about all the other things that can take your attention away from the work, right? There is just work. There is nobody working there, right? That's the whole point. There is just working. So experiencing also, there is nobody experiencing. There is only experiencing, right? Then that way of living where each moment there is just the doing without the doer, that's the state of freedom. Right? Then there is stillness. Then I am not claiming myself to be the doer. Doing only happens. And this is already happening, right? Like right now, your body is doing so many things. You don't claim that I'm doing, but if you start paying attention, you will think I'm, you know, this and that, right? But in reality, it's all happening. So everything happens. So same thing is true with your brain also, the mind also, right? Whatever, whether you call mind or brain, thoughts are happening, perceptions are happening, right? Words are coming out. Like if I stop myself and say, oh, I am speaking, then that actually affects the speaking, right? You cannot speak clearly. So every action happens when you are completely out of the way. That's when it happens beautifully. But then we come later and we may say, oh, I did so well, and maybe I didn't do this well, that well. All this unnecessary thinking we have, that is what is taking our peace away, right? Otherwise, you just do it and you forget it. That's the beautiful way to live. Everywhere, right? You look at someone and you say, if you just, your me is out of the way, then you just respond to what is, right? And you just respond to the moment. There is a natural response that comes out. And that response is an act of care, right? Because when the me is absent, what you respond to is just out of care, and that is what we call love and compassion, right? Not an intentional action, but that which happens naturally when you are not self-centered.